Hey guys, welcome back to Waka Waka. My name is Abby, and in today's vlog, I'll be talking about what it was like coming into Melbourne for the first time, first impression, how I got lost in Melbourne, what I think of Melbourne in general, and Melbourne nights. I think that's what they are called. This video in general is just to create content about things and personal experiences and what it is like traveling from Nigeria to Australia. So I have to say that Australia is really far. It's so obvious. It's really far from Nigeria. My flight was from Abuja to Qatar, and I had a few hours in Qatar, and the flight was 6 hours. And from Qatar to Melbourne is 13 hours. And I can tell you guys, I've been here for like how many days, and I still sleep every afternoon because of the jet lag. It is insane. Like, I still can't function properly. I am still not myself. I did travel a lot in the last few years, but I've never experienced a jet lag like this before in my entire life. Now, got down from the plane, and the line to the immigration is like freaking long, like one of the longest lines I've ever been in my life. It's so long. I felt like the numbers of tourists or foreigners trying to enter Australia, they are quite much. I'm talking about Indians, I'm talking about other Europeans, other Americans, not a lot of Africans, but a lot of Indians. I did saw a lot of Indians in that line, and a lot of Arabs too, like Iranian and other nationalities. But I felt like the tourist line was longer than the normal Australian people line. Now, when I got to the immigration, I'm telling you guys, it didn't take up to like 40 seconds. I submitted my passport and I think my declaration card, and in like 40 seconds, he just smiled at me and was like, "Welcome to Australia, you can go." And I'm like, okay, that was so easy. I just quickly take my bags and then went to get my luggage. After getting my luggage, then you have to go to the exit line. This is the line where you declare or not declare. That was also a really long process. But I did create a content about bringing stuff into Australia, and for other Nigerians or other foreign nationalities that want to bring in their local food, how I was able to successfully bring in 99% of my ingredient into the country, or my local food into Australia. That took the line was really long, but the whole checking of my bag and the clearing didn't take up to, it didn't take up to 3 minutes, and I was out of the airport. As I was exiting the airport, a guy approached me. I was like, "Do you need a taxi?" And if you know anything about Melbourne airport, you're not supposed to take these guys that approach you for taxis, because there's a particular taxi stand where you find the accredited taxi men by the Australian government for people that want to go into the city. So I asked someone, I was like, "Where is the official airport taxi stand?" And he pointed me to the direction, and I went towards there. So I met some men there, and they helped me with my bags. They asked me where I was going, and I told them. So he is also African. So I was thinking they were actually Ethiopians, but he said that he's actually Somalian. And we started talking, and the conversation was really good. And I did ask him, I was like, "What do you think of Australia?" And he's like, "This is the best place I have ever been." And for an African, he really loves it. I was like, "You know what? I need to hear it from someone that looks like me," because for probably other Europeans, the experience would totally be different. I need to hear it from you. Even though my fiance, who is Australian, has always told me, "Don't worry, you're going to really enjoy it. It's a nice place and people are amazing." But I still want to hear from other people. I need to also do my own homework and kind of like things to basically look out for, because nobody is giving me a blueprint. Nobody's telling me. Of course, people are telling me things, but I also want to find out for myself, really. Now, I'll tell you that taxi ride was one of the best conversations I've had in a really long time. I've never met a Somalian before. He was like super friendly. He called one of his friends, and we were like having a three-way conversations. They were all welcoming me into Australia, telling me how I'm gonna have such an amazing time, and calling me their sister, which is so nice. He even pointed out some of the places as we were heading into the city. Now we arrived, again, it's midnight, And my first impression, okay, as we're heading into, like, as you could see, like the high rising from the CBD approaching, basically reminded me of, I lived in the Philippines. It reminded me of going from Makati into BGC. There's literally a bridge that connects Makati into BGC, and you could just see the high rising, and BGC totally looks different. So that was kind of the feeling, I don't know, kind of like a deja vu, like I'd actually experienced that before. So that was my first impression basically of Melbourne. Like I've seen it before basically. So I went to my hotel, checked in, got into my room. Now in the in the hotel room, I realized that they don't have bidets. I was like, where is that, not the spray water thing? I lived in Asia, I lived in Africa, I've been to at least I've been to Dubai, and you find the bidets in the bathroom. There was none. I was like, how am I going to wash my butt? Like after using the toilet, I literally had to go underneath the shower just to feel like, just to be properly clean. That's the extent I had to go to clean myself. But I noticed that there are no bidet in the houses or in the hotels. Second thing is the plug on the wall. I came with my Nigerian charger, which is totally a mistake from my own side, because I should have at least asked my fiance. And I looked at the wall, I'm like, what the hell is this? Why does this hole look so funny? It's so small. My Nigerian charger can't even go into that hole. So that was totally my bad. Now, the next day, I had my first Australian breakfast. I'm going to show the video right here so you guys can see. I spent this amount of money. My sole aim for my first day in Australia was to basically change some of the US dollars that I have in hand into the Australian dollars. So even the taxi driver that took me from the airport, so I asked him, I was like, is there a place I can change money? And we realized that there's actually no place we can go to tonight. So I was like, why don't I give you US dollars? And then you give me change back in local currency. And I asked him what was the rate, and he called someone, and the person told him 140 Australian dollars for 100 USD. Now I did not argue with him and ask him, are you sure that's the correct rate? I didn't say anything about him. I just felt, as he told me, I took it as it is. Okay, and he gave me my change, and I gave him extra 10 Australian dollars as tip. I'm not sure if it is much or not. I paid 78 Australian dollars for my taxi, and then I also added another 10 Australian dollars as tip, because it was an enjoyable ride, and I just had a whole good feeling about the whole thing entirely. Now, the next day I was leaving the hotel, which was totally a big mistake. I should have asked them at the front desk, where can I change money? And they would have literally just directed me and say, go straight, turn left, turn right, and just whatever. But the adventurous part of me was just like, okay, why don't you just look for the address on Google, which I did. And then I was like, oh, this one looks doable. And I looked into the map, and then I started heading out, and I walked, I kind of like looked around. Melbourne is actually a beautiful city. I don't say this very often, but I was so impressed with what I saw. And I've been to a lot of, should I call it mega city? I've been to a lot of mega cities around the world, and it is really, really impressive. Like, in regards to structure, I did saw a lot of the old structures, because I was at the Collins Street. So around that area, you have a lot of big banks, a lot of big institutions, and some of the buildings were actually old. I couldn't really tell what kind of design or what kind of history it is, because I don't really know much about Australian culture. But it was so unique, basically. Super clean. People are friendly, and they are also helpful. That's one thing I noticed about Melbourneites. Friendly and super helpful. I'm gonna go into that details later on. But even like when I walk past someone, like there's a smile on their face, or like they're saying hello to you, I have never I'm telling you guys, I have never experienced this in a big city where people are so nice. And even in some part of the world where they have big cities, everyone is just busy minding their business and being so super professional. And then when you go into the local areas, people are much more friendly. City is clean, yet I wasn't getting weird stares. The places I go to around the world, and it's like, who is that? why is she that dark? I wasn't getting any weird stares at all. It was just so easy for me to blend in and just feel like, I have been living here for so long. And one thing that I did notice about the Melbourneites is that they walk really, really fast. Like if you want to really spot them, the actual locals, you see them, pew, 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 they walk so fast. And then I also noticed that they cross the stop thing that you press for you to go through the traffic. I noticed that I am waiting for the lights to turn green, and you just see a Melbourneite walk past me because they already know how it works, and they can just cross the road without even waiting for the green light to come on. So I was looking for the money changing place, and by the time I got to where the map says, I couldn't find the store. So I was just like, oh, since I couldn't find it, maybe I can just walk around and still try to kind of like see a little bit of the city, and I'm sure I'll come across a money changing place. So I was walking, I was able to walk to the cathedral. Opposite the St. Paul Cathedral is the Flinders station. That was actually really impressive. Now, when I saw the structure from the Flinders station, I'd kind of like forgotten, structurally, Melbourne is known for its, train stations, and it is known for its trams that just goes around the city, which I am not even venturing into yet because, I don't know my way around. And when it comes to exploring city also, I prefer that I had an opportunity to actually go around with a local, and my fiance didn't come to pick me at the airport. So it was just me by myself. So so there was a lot of misconceptions going on in my head. So I saw Flinders station, and in my head I'm like, oh my god, that mall looks amazing. I swear to god, I thought it was a mall, the structure and everything. And of course, there were a lot of people there. So I went into St. Paul Cathedral first, and then I realized that, this cathedral is not even a Catholic cathedral. It's an Anglican cathedral, beautiful structure. Nobody disturbed me. I walked in, walked around, looked at the painted glasses and all. I didn't spend up to maybe a minute there, and then I walked back to Flinders. I was like, okay, let me go check inside this mall. And then as I walked closer, I realized that it's actually a train station. I'm like, oh my god, it's so okay. Yeah, I fell for that. And then I met some two girls before that were asking me for directions, and I was like, you know what? Actually, I just got into the country, and I don't think I've even spent up to 10 hours. And they're like, oh my god, you look like a local. I'm like, well, I don't know. So I saw them again, and I asked them, so because we're looking for the largest Christmas tree around, so I was like, I don't really know, but you guys can ask somebody else. So when I saw them again, I said, have you guys seen the Christmas tree? And they said, yeah, they saw one. So I now asked them, do you know where Federation Square is? So they just pointed me like it's around that direction. It was just a place, a big space with coffee shops, art galleries, and you can actually go for art shows and anything that is related to art, basically. And I also noticed that Melbourneites love their coffee. It's like everywhere that I walk through, you see people drinking coffee and just relaxing and having a good time, basically. Now, one thing that I did notice, that Flinders Station, St. Paul, just within that circle, there's a lot of people with babies. I have never seen that amount of babies in a particular place. I'm not sure if it's the day, maybe it's, yeah, I did arrive on a Thursday, so it's not a weekend. But the amount of baby that I saw there in the stroller with their parents was like a lot of babies, okay? A lot. Then from Federation Square, I just went to my left. I crossed the road to my left, and I saw like this, alleys with artwork, art paintings, so beautiful. So I just walked around there, took some pictures, some videos, and then I walked out, and then I started heading towards that Collins Street area. Then I got to the Immigration Museum, but then because by this time I was already looking for my hotel, and it says around Immigration Museum. And then I saw, while at the Immigration Museum, I saw the Queen's Bridge. I saw a bridge in front. I was like, let me cross over there. And I did cross, and I observed the bridge. It was really beautiful. I watched people taking, like, boating around. And then I turned around, it looked, I was like, it's not a bad idea for me to keep going forward. And then I kept on going forward, and I didn't stop. It was just like, I kept on going forward. I didn't even know why I was doing it. Well, I'm telling you guys, I didn't know how it happened, but I knew that for the next 2 hours, I was lost. I went from Immigration Museum, crossed the Queen's Bridge, and then I just headed towards South Melbourne. And I walked up to this particular park called the... But I think what I really did saw around that southern Melbourne was a lot of Asian people, a lot of Asian restaurants, and then a lot of, just a mix of both, basically. Again, I still didn't find a money changing shop, right? So from that particular park, I walked, so I looked in the map. I was like, now I'm really tired. I am really intentional about going home, and I must find my way home. Now, the sad thing is that I only had... Why I decided to walk, and I was thinking I was going to make it, right, was because I only had, after having breakfast, I only had $60, 60 Australian dollars in my pocket. So I was like, imagine I enter a taxi and I don't have enough money. Then how am I going to tell the taxi driver that I don't have money? So it's better I walk. So I was able to walk my way back, found my way to the Queen's Bridge, and then from the Immigration Museum, I saw the name of my hotel on one of the buildings, and I'm like, oh my God, I literally walked 2.5 or 3 hours away from my hotel in the name of looking for my hotel, which was so stupid, really. And I also have to note that I didn't have I couldn't buy a local card, a SIM card at the airport, and I didn't have internet, basically. So I was just freestyling this whole first day in Melbourne. And basically, I think I would advise, if you can get a SIM card at the airport and register a phone line, please do it, because it would really help you a lot. And then in regards to safety, right? Okay, now let's go back to when I talk about Melbourneites being really helpful and being friendly people. So that same day, okay, the next day now, around 1 o'clock, because again, phone charger is not compatible with the ones you guys have here. So I was like, oh, it wouldn't be a bad idea to actually go out and buy a phone charger. So the hotel front desk person directed me to a 7-Eleven not far off. And I walked down, I was like, oh, it's finished. Then the person directed me to another direction. So I was waiting by the light for it to turn green. So a local guy with a scooter thing, he was like, have you seen this particular scooter somewhere? And I was like, no, but do you... I now in turn asked him, I said, do you know a place where I can find a 7-Eleven to buy a phone charger? And he was like, do I have a network? I was like, no, I do not. I'm actually new here. So he immediately went on his phone and then checked the 7-Eleven that was still available. He looked at the map, and then he told me how to get to the place. Nobody, no place in the world I have ever experienced anything like that. He was even telling me, he said, even as a Melbourneite, I get lost sometimes. So you actually need to you need to have a phone to basically go around. You basically need internet for direction, because and then the same thing, I've had issues like this twice already, that I got lost. Second place is in regional Victoria, which is 2 days ago. The same thing, a local person went on his phone, checked for the direction, and was like, okay, go there, and you'll be fine. So the people here are so helpful. I think it might be intimidating, because you're coming from Africa, or you're coming from it's a different place, it's a new place. So I totally understand that. But you as a person, you just have to, if you really know what you want, you just have to tell the people that, this is, I need help, basically. So if you need help, ask for help, and people would happily help you, as long as it is within their reach to help you. And in regards to safety, so I went out around 2 a.m. and I haven't felt that much freedom in a really, really long time. I lived in the Philippines for 5 years. I absolutely love the nightlife there. And Melbourne is far more better. Like the streets are well lit, people are outside. I mean, this is Friday into Saturday already. Yeah, Friday into Saturday already, and that's the party night. People are out partying and having fun. You see people on the streets just walking back and forth. So I felt pretty safe. It didn't feel like I didn't feel like I was gonna be in any danger or not. Like I was confident to go out at that time just to get what I needed. And in an hour, I was able to get my phone charger, and I came back to the hotel. I slept, and yeah, and I was able to charge my phone basically. What else do I need to talk about Melbourne? What else do I really like about Melbourne? I won't say it's an easy city to navigate because I got lost. Yeah, I just got lost, but you just have to be aware and not make stupid mistakes like I did. But Melbourne is a place that is, again, totally different from any place I've been to. I didn't experience any catcalling, okay? No catcalling at all. Like, I got catcalled a lot in New York, like insane. I didn't see any rats. New York has a lot of rats. I did not see any rats just, dancing up and down or whatever. I didn't see trash in the streets. Nope, none of that. It was just superb, like totally. Again, I had no idea about. Yeah, I've heard about Australia. I've seen videos and pictures about beautiful places in the country, but I had no idea it would be this really, really